The Bermuda Triangle, or also known as the Devil's Triangle, is an area located north of the Atlantic Ocean. This area defines an imaginary triangle between the Bermuda Islands, Puerto Rico, and the Bahamas, on the peninsula of Florida. The triangle is known for numerous cases of mysterious disappearances of ships and airplanes, despite the fact that the terrestrial science has taken pains to justify these disappearances and attribute them to natural causes, such as hurricanes, gigantic waves, methane gas eruptions, tropical storms, or even human errors, such as ships with excess loads, inexperienced or disoriented pilots, and even piracy. The reality is that no evidence has been found for most of these disappearances, and they are currently archived as unknown causes or reasons. In this area, planes have disappeared in flight, many of them military, but also passengers' planes. Some have even disappeared while receiving instructions to land, but also small boats and large ships, as if them and their crew had been dragged into another dimension. Some of them were very large, such as the 199-meter-long Marine Sulphur Queen freighter, or the 19,000-ton Cyclops with 309 passengers on board, simply vanished. But there are ships that not only disappear, but are found adrift without a crew, with all their cargo intact. As for example, the case of the HMS Rosalie in the 1840s, a ship that was heading to Havana and was later found mysteriously without anyone on board. The list is long, very long. But perhaps one of the best known and probably the most famous incident is the Flight 19. On December 5th, in 1945, a US Navy squadron of 5 TBM Avenger bombers, with 14 people on crew, left Fort Lauderdale in Florida at 2:10 p.m. on a training flight. Lieutenant Charles Carroll Taylor was leading the operation. The mission was relatively simple. They had to fly over the Atlantic to the east and carry out a low-altitude bombardment on sandbags, then continue 140 kilometers, turn north and travel another 140 kilometers. Finally, they had to perform a maneuver to head southwest and after 220 kilometers, return to the base. It was a regular exercise and one that other squads had done earlier that day. The flight seemed to be proceeding normally, since around 3 p.m. the base picked up the transmissions of one of the squadron members, requesting permission to launch their projectiles. The problem started shortly after, when at around 3:40 p.m., Lieutenant Robert F. Cox, who was flying with another group of trainees to perform the same exercise, received one of the transmissions from Flight 19, where one of the pilots asked for the readings of the other compasses and communicated to the rest of the squad that he did not know where they were. Cox, not knowing if that transmission was from a ship or a plane, quickly identified himself and offered his help, but received no response. On a second attempt, he received a response that identified himself as VT-28 Taylor, where he explained that his compasses were broken, that he was sure he was over the Keys, but he did not know where exactly or how to return to base. Cox quickly notified the incident to the base and advised Taylor to head towards the sun to return to Fort Lauderdale, but he communicated that he saw strange visual effects, even the sun looked strange. Even though the base managed to communicate with the squad and ask Taylor to activate his transmitter to locate his position, despite the fact that he said it was activated, no signal was received. Taylor informed the base that they were unable to determine his position and that the ocean did not appear as usual. And even though various course changes were attempted, the squad's last transmission were unreadable until the connection was completely lost. If the planes did not find the base soon, they would have to land anywhere for lack of fuel. When seeing that the squadron was no longer located, 3 planes took off with the aim of finding the group. At 6 p.m. o'clock, a seaplane also took off, the consolidated PBY Catalina, with the aim of finding the 5 Avengers and guiding them back to the base. Later, 2 more seaplanes of the Martin BBM Marine type also joined the search. One of them, the PBM 59225, which had taken off at 7:25 p.m. from the Banana River base with a team of 13 people, never returned to base. After a routine call to base at 6:30 p.m., it was never heard from again. It disappeared completely, leaving no trace. But before the end of the day, one more transmission from Flight 19 was received, where Taylor asked his apprentices to fly in close formation. As soon as one of the planes marked critical fuel, they would all land together. But it seems that this message arrived late, since, according to the calculations of the tanks, at that time the transmission was received, the planes should have been without fuel for a long time. Over the next 5 days, an intense search was organized, thoroughly searching the entire area, both by sea and land, with the aim of finding any trace of the squadron and the seaplane that had come to their rescue. But the search ended without success. Now, if so far everything is a mystery, the level increases when 21 days after the accident, Georges Paunesa's brother, one of the crew of Flight 19, received a telegram that said, "You have been misinformed about me. I am very alive." Signed, Georgie. Nickname his mother had for him when he was a child. A bad joke, perhaps? In the official reports of the Navy, there is no record that the telegram would be investigated. Even today, no trace of the planes has been found. The case remains archived for unknown reasons, and the 26 missing persons are listed as dead. But nowadays, there are still mysterious disappearances in the Bermuda Triangle, even though these are very sporadic. The last report was on May 15, 2017, when a Tywin engine MU-2B aircraft was heading from Puerto Rico to Florida with 4 American passengers. Air traffic control in Miami reported the loss when MU-2B suddenly disappeared from radar about 23 miles east of Eleuthera. Ryan Kelly, a spokesman for the Coast Guard at the time, reported that there were no signs of adverse weather conditions when the aircraft disappeared. There are pyramids underwater, where the cities of Atlantis were located. Some of them are in the Bermuda Triangle area. Those pyramids are still working and are partly the cause of the magnetic anomalies in that area. According to my data, and also of Taygeta, which is very reliable in this case, nobody uses these pyramids. They remained as operational reactors that are only there, operating despite being immersed in water and under meters of marine sediment. Although those pyramids have been there since the flood and no one is using them, they still produce energy because no one has caught them or attacked them. That is, no one has taken their internal components and parts of their structure, as happens with the pyramids on the surface, like those of Giza or those of Mesoamerica. So, those pyramids are there, being at least 3, below the Bermuda, Puerto Rico, Florida area, with no one to attend them, and constantly producing energy, which is not drained into anything useful. Sometimes they discharge this energy into seawater and underground. That's how they work anyway, creating in that way electromagnetic disturbances in the area. They create portals because it is part of their very function, not just as reactors. So, when too much energy is accumulated, they release it. See it as a relief valve that is activated. They create a high energetic point in the area, which differs from the average of the planet. Anything which in that moment is in the area of influence of that high energy will change its frequency vibration. Same principle as how a spacecraft changes frequency density, but in a controlled way. So, this area is dangerous because it surrounds the entire area with other frequencies, which in themselves are portals, and as something of equivalent frequency, it is only more than that which has the same frequency. In other words, if we have a frequency represented numerically, and that frequency is equivalent to Namibia in the desert, any object that is going through this electromagnetic disturbance, such as a ship, will stop having the frequency of the sea in that area and will suddenly have the frequency from a point in Namibia, in the desert. And suddenly, they have a container ship stranded in the desert. The problem here is that nobody is taking care of those zero-point reactors, the pyramids. So then, they do whatever it takes, letting the automated systems decide. Many times, it is not an electromagnetic flow or bubble strong enough to move an object to another location, such as a traditional portal. Rather, it only alters it in frequency a little. That little alters the position in time of the object, although not its place. The ship remains in its logical position at sea, but in another completely different year, another position in time. Because in itself, everything is frequencies. There is nothing like time as something external, objective, causal, as there are no distances either. All are frequencies of oscillation, vibration. In a few words, I can describe vibration as the revolutions per minute given by the subatomic particles that they make up the molecules of everything called material, with a time frame given by the observer. Until now, the Federation has done nothing to deactivate these pyramids. They don't even talk about it, just about keeping an eye on them. But they never consider deactivating them. I do not see a reliable reason of why not. It wouldn't be complicated, but why especially? I don't have the answer. I have even asked myself that question, and I have asked them that question in the past, but nobody answers it. And how can they continue to function even underwater? I don't think they are operational at full capacity, or the disturbances on the surface would be very strong and obvious. In itself, a pyramid works as a zero-point reactor only because of its shape. The internal systems make it more efficient, but the simple pyramid shape is enough to emit a lot of energy. In the case of these 3 below that area, it is verified that they still have systems in operation. It may be that these instruments are still inside sealed chambers, dry chambers. The fact that they don't really emit much energy and that those portals in the area are something very sporadic, can answer why the Federation has never bothered to look at this problem more closely.